The thing about humans, and I mean this with all 6 of my respiratory chambers, is that they don't follow the rules. Not the written ones, not the unwritten ones, not even the ones they make up themselves. And we, the collective intelligence of refined species, or Cirrus if you're feeling lazy, learned this the hard way. My designation is Kelvrith 9, Intelligence Analyst for the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, and I was there. I watched it happen. I survived, which is more than I can say for 73% of our ships. Let me set the scene for you, because this is important. Picture the galaxy as we knew it, orderly, sensible, governed by approximately 2 million years of accumulated wisdom. Every species that reached the stars did so by following a predictable pattern: discover fire, invent the wheel, split the atom, achieve faster than light travel, join the galactic community, contribute to the great tapestry of civilization. Simple, elegant, boring as hell, but it worked. Then humans showed up. Now, they'd been on our radar for about 300 of their years. We'd observed their radio signals, their primitive satellites, their adorable little attempts at leaving their gravity well, standard pre-contact species. The Cirrus Contact Committee had filed the appropriate paperwork. Humanity would be welcomed into civilized space in approximately 500 more years, once they'd matured past their tendency to murder each other over imaginary lines on maps and slight variations in skin pigmentation. Except, and here's where it gets interesting, they didn't wait. 18 years before their scheduled contact date, a human vessel appeared at the edge of Terminus Station, the galaxy's largest trading hub, home to representatives from 417 species. This station, mind you, sits roughly 47 light-years from Earth. The humans shouldn't have had FTL capability for another 5 centuries, according to every predictive model we'd ever developed. Their ship was, and I'm being generous here, a flying junkyard. Welded hull plates from at least 3 different alloy compositions, an engine configuration that violated approximately 9 laws of physics, and a reactor that our sensors registered as both operational and catastrophically failing at the same time. It shouldn't have been able to cross a solar system, let alone interstellar space. The ship's captain, a woman named Kateri Okonkwo, hailed the station in broken Galactic Stattern, which she'd apparently learned from decoding our public broadcasts, and announced that humanity was ready to join the galactic community. Right now, no appointment necessary. The contact committee nearly had a collective aneurysm. I was assigned to the diplomatic team sent to explain, politely, that this wasn't how things worked. There were protocols, procedures, maturity requirements. You couldn't just show up and demand a seat at the table because you jury-rigged an FTL drive out of spite and coffee, which seemed to be their primary motivation. Kateri listened to our carefully prepared speech, nodded thoughtfully, and then asked a question that should have warned us. So what happens if we just stay in our own space and do our own thing? Then you develop naturally, explained Ambassador Threll Koss of Axion, whose species had been spacefaring for 6,000 years, and we contact you when the time is appropriate. But we can defend our territory, she asked. Of course, Threll Koss said, the way you'd humor a child, though I can't imagine you'd need to. This region of space is quite safe. Kateri smiled. Humans have this way of smiling that shows their teeth. It's a threat display, though they pretend it isn't. And I swear I felt my survival instincts kick in right then. Good to know, she said. We'll be heading home then. Thanks for the chat. And that should have been it. Except 3 months later, the Krell Dominion decided to test humanity's resolve. The Krell are technically, though there aren't many left, a predatory species that had built their empire on subjugating less advanced civilizations. They operated in a legal gray area. Technically, pre-contact species weren't under Cirrus protection, and if the Krell wanted to conquer a few primitive worlds before we could intervene, well, that was unfortunate, but not illegal. They sent a strike force to Earth. 40 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to sterilize a continent. The plan was simple: demand submission, harvest resources, enslave the population, standard Krell operating procedure. They'd done it to dozens of species. We monitored the situation, of course. observed, took notes, filed reports. The contact committee debated whether they'd intervene, but ultimately decided that this was a regrettable learning experience for humanity. They'd submit, we'd eventually liberate them. They'd be grateful and properly appreciate the value of SIR's membership. Win-win. Except humans don't submit. The Krell fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system and broadcast their demands. Standard procedure: surrender or be destroyed. They expected fear, desperation, maybe some begging. Instead, they got silence. For exactly 47 seconds, the Krell fleet waited. Then every planet, moon, asteroid, and artificial satellite in the human solar system opened fire simultaneously. I've seen the tactical recordings. I've watched them approximately 3,000 times, and I still don't believe what I'm seeing. The humans had weaponized everything. Mercury had railguns disguised as mining equipment. Venus had particle beam arrays hidden under atmospheric processors. Mars was essentially one giant missile platform. The asteroid belt. Let's just say the Krell learned what kinetic bombardment meant when several million rocks started accelerating to relativistic speeds in their direction. But Earth was the masterpiece. The humans had taken one look at the galactic community, assessed the threat level, and decided that their cute little planet needed what they called defense in depth. They'd built weapon platforms disguised as satellites, hidden missile silos on their moon, and turned their space stations into fortress bunkers. In 18 years, the same 18 years we thought they were playing with primitive rockets, they'd turned their entire solar system into the galaxy's most elaborate trap. The Krell fleet lasted 9 minutes. 9 minutes. 40 warships, each one centuries more advanced than anything humans should have possessed, reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma before they could even charge their primary weapons. The Krell fleet commander's last transmission was just screaming. Not words, just screaming. We observed this. Filed reports. The contact committee went very, very quiet. Then, because apparently humans have a sense of humor that borders on psychotic, Kateri Okonkwo broadcast a message on all SIR's frequencies. "Sorry about the mess," she said, sounding genuinely apologetic. "We did warn you we could defend our territory. If anyone else wants to test that, our coordinates are publicly available. Otherwise, we'll just stay over here in our little corner of space, not bothering anyone. Have a nice day." The Krell Dominion, predictably, lost their collective minds. They'd never been defeated, not in 4,000 years of conquest. They assembled a revenge fleet, 400 warships this time, 10% of their total military strength, and prepared to reduce Earth to its component atoms. The SIRS tried to intervene. Really, we did. But the Krell were furious. And fury makes you stupid. They rejected all diplomatic overtures and jumped their fleet directly into human space. This time, the humans were waiting. And this is where I need you to understand something about human military doctrine, because it's important. Every species in the galaxy follows the same basic principle. Meet force with equivalent force, establish superiority, achieve victory. It's rational. It's efficient. It makes sense. Humans don't do that. Humans have this concept they call escalation. When you hit them, they don't hit you back with equal force. They hit you with overwhelming, disproportionate, absolutely unreasonable force. And they keep hitting you until you stop existing as a coherent threat. It's not rational. It's not efficient. It's terrifying. The Krell revenge fleet jumped into human space expecting a fight. What they got was a demonstration. Humanity had spent 3 months preparing. They'd built guns that violated energy conservation laws. They'd weaponized quantum uncertainty. They'd figured out how to make black holes portable, which should be impossible. And then they mounted them on ships, which should be even more impossible. The battle lasted 32 seconds. When it was over, the Krell Dominion had lost 400 warships, approximately 60,000 soldiers, and their will to fight. The survivors jumped out of human space so fast they left scorch marks on reality itself. Earth broadcast another message. This one was shorter. "We can do this all day." The Krell Dominion filed a formal complaint with SIRS. claimed the humans had violated approximately 900 interstellar laws, including several we didn't even know existed, demanded intervention, sanctions, something. The contact committee reviewed the recordings, consulted the legal department, and issued their verdict. Humanity had acted in self-defense. Case closed. The Krell ambassador, a massive creature named Vexthor, who'd personally ordered the extinction of 17 species, stood before the Cirrus Assembly and shouted that humans were a threat to galactic civilization, that they needed to be contained, that their aggression was unprecedented. Then, Kateri Okonkwo showed up. Nobody had invited her. Humans weren't Cirrus members. They had no legal right to address the assembly. But she walked in anyway, climbed up to the speaker's platform, and looked at Vexthor the way you'd look at something stuck to your shoe. "You came to our home," she said quietly, "and tried to enslave us. Twice. We defended ourselves. If that makes us aggressive, then I guess we're aggressive. But here's the thing," and she turned to address the entire assembly. Hundreds of species watching in stunned silence. "We didn't come looking for you. We didn't invade anyone. We're just sitting in our little corner of space, minding our business. You want to avoid us? Great. Don't come to our neighborhood. It's really that simple." She started to leave, then stopped and turned back. "Oh, and if anyone else wants to test humanity's resolve," that smile again, showing teeth. "We've got 9 billion people back home who are really good at building weapons when they're motivated. Come find out what motivation looks like." Then she left. The assembly sat in silence for approximately 4 minutes. Then Vexthor made a mistake. He ordered what remained of the Krell military to prepare for a final assault on Earth. Total war. Extinction-level engagement. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier the Krell Dominion could muster. The Cirrus intelligence network picked up the mobilization immediately. "We tried to warn humanity, tried to offer assistance, tried to do something, but human communications were polite and brief. Thank you for the information. We'll handle it. Handle it." Like the Krell Dominion, a 4,000-year-old empire with territory spanning 200 star systems was a minor inconvenience. I was part of the observation team assigned to monitor the situation. We positioned our ships at the edge of human space, far enough to be safe, we thought, close enough to record whatever happened. There were 12 of us, representing the Cirrus scientific community. We wanted to understand how humans thought, how they fought, how they'd survived 2 encounters with a superior force. We were about to get a very thorough education. The Krell assembled their fleet at a staging point 3 light-years from Earth, 1,200 warships, every vessel they possessed. Their entire civilization's military might, pointed at one small blue planet like a loaded gun. They were going to jump in, overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers, and reduce Earth to ash. That was the plan anyway. The humans let them jump. Every strategic model, every tactical simulation, every piece of military wisdom, accumulated over millions of years, said, you stop an invasion at the border. You don't let a hostile fleet enter your territory. You intercept, you defend, you hold the line. Humans, as I've mentioned, don't follow the rules. The Krell fleet materialized in Earth's solar system, weapons hot, shields up, ready for immediate engagement. They found nothing. No defensive positions, no orbital platforms, no missile swarms. The solar system appeared completely defenseless, like humanity had just given up. Vexthor broadcast a victory message, called humans cowards, declared the Krell Dominion's superiority. Standard conqueror nonsense. Then the sun hiccuped. I'm not being poetic. The star Sol, the humans call it, experienced a minor fluctuation in its fusion cycle. Nothing dangerous, nothing that would occur naturally, just a tiny pulse of energy that propagated outward at the speed of light. The Krell fleet's sensors registered it, flagged it as anomalous, and approximately 3 seconds later, every ship's computer system crashed simultaneously. Turns out, and we learned this later after interviewing the survivors, humans had figured out how to weaponize stellar radiation. They'd built equipment that could induce specific fusion pulses in their star pulses that carried what they called an electromagnetic pulse, optimized to fry Krell ship computers. The Krell had shielding against natural stellar radiation, of course. But this wasn't natural. This was engineered, targeted, and absolutely devastating. 1,200 warships, dead in space. Floating. Helpless. That's when the human fleet appeared. They didn't jump in with weapons blazing. They didn't announce themselves. They just materialized, like they'd been there all along, waiting. 200 ships, each one smaller than the Krell vessels. Each one broadcasting a simple message. Surrender now and you'll be allowed to leave. Continue this war and none of you go home. Vexthor, because he was stupid and proud and angry, ordered his fleet to fire manually. Krell ships could operate without computers. It would be slower, less accurate, but they still had weapons. The human fleet didn't move, didn't dodge, didn't raise shields. They just turned off the Krell weapons. I'm still not sure how they did it. Some kind of quantum field manipulation that made conventional weapons inert. The Krell fired railguns that stopped accelerating, launched missiles that forgot how to explode, charged particle beams that dissipated into random photons. Everything just stopped working. Then a single human ship, smaller than the others, painted with some kind of insignia we didn't detonate, flew directly toward Vexthor's flagship. One ship. Alone. Moving at speeds that should have been impossible without inertial dampening, which meant the pilot was experiencing approximately 40 gravities of acceleration, which meant the pilot should have been reduced to paste. Except humans apparently decided that physics was optional. The ship stopped directly in front of Vexthor's viewport, close enough that he could see into the cockpit. The pilot was a young man, maybe 25 in human years, named Jian Park. He was drinking something from a container coffee. We learned later, because of course it was, and he waved, just waved, like he was greeting a neighbor. Then he transmitted a message, audio only, directly to Vexthor's personal communicator. Hi, my name's Jan. I'm going to give you one chance to save your people's lives. Turn your fleet around. Go home. Never come back. Or I push this button, and he held up a small device, and every fusion reactor in your fleet goes critical simultaneously. Your choice. You've got 10 seconds. Vexthor, predictably, called it a bluff. Jan shrugged, took another sip of coffee, and pushed the button. Nothing happened. For exactly 3 seconds, nothing happened. Vexthor started to laugh, started to call Jian a coward and a liar, started to order his fleet to ram the human ships, since weapons weren't working. Then the reactors started singing. I can't describe it any other way. 1,200 fusion reactors, each one designed to operate at specific frequencies, all suddenly resonating at the same harmonic frequency. The sound transmitted through ship hulls, through space itself somehow, a low thrumming note that made your organs vibrate in ways organs shouldn't vibrate. That's the warning bell, John said casually. You've got about 30 seconds before they reach critical mass. After that, your ships become very expensive fireworks. 25 seconds now. Better decide fast. I watched Vexthor's face through our long-range sensors. Watched him realize that humanity wasn't bluffing, had never been bluffing, had built weapons so far beyond Krell understanding that resistance was meaningless. Watched 4,000 years of pride crumble in real time. Stop, he whispered. Please, stop. Jian pushed another button. The singing stopped. Turn around, he said, not unkindly. Go home. Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them humanity doesn't want war, doesn't want conquest, doesn't want anything except to be left alone. But tell them what happens if you don't leave us alone. The Krell fleet turned around. All 1,200 ships, moving in perfect silence, jumped out of human space and never came back. We thought that was the end of it. Thought humanity would celebrate their victory. Maybe get a little cocky, maybe start expanding their territory now that they'd proven themselves. Instead, Kateri Okonkwo requested a meeting with the Suez Contact Committee. She showed up 3 days later, along with Jian and a woman named Aliyah Nkomo, who introduced herself as Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations, a position they'd apparently created that morning. They sat down across from 50 ambassadors representing the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, 3 humans in a room designed to hold thousands, and Kateri started talking. "We don't want to join sirs," she said. "We appreciate the offer, but we've seen how your organization works. Lot of bureaucracy, lot of rules, lot of species telling other species how to live. That's not for us." Ambassador Threll Koss, who'd recovered some composure since our last meeting, cleared his throat. "You've demonstrated considerable military capability. Surely you understand the benefits of formal cooperation." "We understand that cooperation requires trust," Aaliyah interrupted, "and we don't trust you yet. No offense, you watched the Krell attack us twice before offering help. You filed reports while we fought for our lives. That's not cooperation. That's observation." The assembly went quiet. She wasn't wrong. However, Kateri continued, "We're not interested in being your enemies either. So here's what we propose. Humanity stays in our space, you stay in yours, and we establish trade agreements and diplomatic channels on neutral ground. We share technology, selectively in exchange for cultural exchange and scientific cooperation. We help with genuine threats to galactic security if asked nicely. But we govern ourselves, defend ourselves, and make our own decisions. Take it or leave it." The SIR's legal department went into emergency session. This wasn't how things worked. Species either joined the community or remained isolated. There was no middle ground, no precedent for this kind of arrangement. After 6 hours of debate, Ambassador Threll Koss returned with the Assembly's decision. "We accept your terms, with one condition. Humanity agrees to a non-aggression treaty with all SIR's member species." Jian laughed. Actually laughed. "You want us to promise not to attack you? We've never attacked anyone. You came to us, remember?" "Nevertheless," Threll Koss said stiffly, "the Assembly requires assurance that humanity's military capabilities won't be used for conquest." The 3 humans looked at each other, had some kind of silent conversation, and Aaliyah nodded. "Fine, we'll sign your treaty. But we're adding a clause. Any SIRS member species that violates our territory or threatens our security forfeits treaty protection. We defend ourselves however we see fit." It wasn't a negotiation, it was a statement of fact. The treaty was signed 3 weeks later. Humanity got their independence, their autonomy, and their little corner of space. The SIRS got a non-aggression pact, and the profound relief of not having to fight humans. The Krell Dominion collapsed within a year. Turns out, when your entire military strategy depends on intimidation and you get humiliated by a species that's been spacefaring for less than 2 decades, your empire loses credibility. Their territory fragmented into independent systems, most of which immediately applied for SIRS membership and protection from human retaliation that never came. That was 43 years ago. Since then, humanity has kept their word. They stay in their space, trade fairly, contribute to scientific research, and generally act like reasonable galactic citizens. They've even helped with a few crises: the Vexon Plague, the Canis Nebula collapse, the Thrillian Civil War, always when asked, always with clear terms, always leaving as soon as the job was done. But here's the thing that keeps me awake during my rest cycles. We still don't understand them. Every simulation, every analysis, every predictive model we have says humans should have joined SIRS, should have leveraged their military superiority into political power, should have expanded their territory, built an empire, followed the same pattern every successful species has followed for millions of years. They didn't. They chose isolation over influence, independence over empire. They built weapons that could crack planets, and then just sat on them, waiting for threats that mostly never came. Why? I've asked Kateri this question. She's an old woman now, retired from active service, living on some colony station near Proxima Centauri. I visited her last year, brought Terran whiskey as a gift. Humans appreciate that gesture and asked her directly, why didn't humanity conquer the galaxy when they had the chance? She poured us drinks, looked out at the stars, and smiled that unsettling, tooth-showing smile. Because we've been there before, she said. Back on Earth, before we reached space. Empires rise. Empires fall. Everyone suffers. We learned our lesson. We're not interested in ruling anyone. We're interested in being free. But you had the power, I protested. You could have reshaped galactic civilization. Power doesn't mean you should use it, she said quietly. That's the difference between us and the Krell. They had power and thought it gave them rights. We have power and know it gives us responsibility. Responsibility to defend ourselves, yes, but also responsibility not to become the thing we fought against. I still think about that conversation. Still wonder if she's telling me the truth or if there's some deeper human strategy I'm missing. Still watch Earth's solar system on long-range sensors, just in case. Because the other thing that keeps me awake, humanity is still building weapons, still improving their technology, still preparing for threats we can't see. They say it's defensive, and maybe it is, but their definition of defense includes quantum bombs and weaponized stars and ships that can fold space like paper. The last time anyone entered human space uninvited was 22 years ago. A Vrix exploration vessel, completely innocent, just mapping the sector. They jumped into Earth's system by accident, immediately broadcast apologies, started jumping out. Human defense platforms tracked them the entire time but never fired. Just watched. Let them leave. The Vrix captain reported that in those 3 seconds between arrival and departure, her ship's computers registered target talks from approximately 4,000 different weapon systems. 4,000. Most of which her sensors couldn't even identify. That was 22 years ago. Who knows what they've built since then? So when new species ask me about humanity, ask if they should visit Earth, ask if humans are dangerous, I tell them the truth: humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they're aggressive, not because they're violent, not because they want to hurt you. They're dangerous because they'll leave you alone right up until the moment you threaten them. And then you'll divulge that everything you thought about warfare, about power, about civilization itself is just quaint, outdated, adorable. The last time we entered human space, 43 years ago, humanity taught the galaxy a lesson we're still processing. Never mistake patience for weakness, and I really, really hope we never need to learn that lesson again.